Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you all for being here. I look forward to the session with you tonight. What I wanted to talk about today, we know that the world is changing rapidly. We are going through an acceleration and a progress of all kinds of things that are moving so quickly and so fast that in the galactic core, they're calling this period of time the quickening. It's an acceleration of our personal karma and also of planetary karma. We have all kind of like political, social, world event that are taking place. We also have climate change stuff that are also taking place, all of which are making many of us feel unsafe. I know many people initially living in New York City that left New York City to go to other places, trying to find a more simpler life in a rural or in a less densely populated area to be safe. I have friends of mine who went, for example, to Asheville, and right now I cannot contact them because Asheville got flooded by a Hurricane Helene, and there's no phone communication, and it's disastrous what's happening there. Now, Asheville is kind of similar to Sedona, as that it's the people in the town. There's a large enclave of light workers and progressive individuals who are trying to change the world. It is a sad thing to my mind that a couple of people that I know actually moved there, and they ended up moving in a location where the very disaster they were trying to run away from has befallen them. I will continue to try to contact them, and hopefully they are going to be okay. And I'm using that example just to let you know that I'm very aware that things are changing so rapidly and so quickly that you have to be fast on your feet. You have to follow what your instinct is telling you. And in their cases, maybe the time they were told to move, if they had remained in New York, some other tragedy would have befallen them. And the fact that they moved there at that time was proper for them. I don't want to interpret in their own or interpret what their own intuition told them to do. I wanted also to acknowledge that the crisis that we're facing, we talked about this last week, and I want to kind of expand on this a little bit more, that all of these crises, before I do this, I want to also qualify what I'm saying by pointing out a couple of things that may not be so obvious. The frequency or the bridge that connects all 3D world to the new earth is truth, authenticity, and transparency. If you've been with me for a while, you know I've been saying this since 2010. It's truth, authenticity, and transparency. I channeled this from the Galactic Region Council. And so all secrets will be revealed. And if you're living inauthentically in any way, and if you have any kind of stuck energy that you're not addressing and you're not moving forward to create transformation, transmutation, and change for it will be changed by karma. And when karma and planetary karma changes it or transmute it, it's never comfortable. It's always, I know change and transformation for us, shifting our consciousness and doing the Dantian work, do all that inner work is walking into a minefield. That's one thing to be in a minefield than to be in a natural disaster where things are having some sort of event or health crisis befalling you causing you to deal with the stuff that you didn't want to deal with, okay, by karma, because it's harsher and much more difficult to overcome. So to those of you who think that some of the things I'm guiding you into are too complicated and too difficult to swallow, I encourage you to heed my advice and do the work that's necessary to move the stuff out so that your life is truthful, authentic, and transparent. As much as possible, do not lie. Be honest with yourself and with everyone else around you to the best of your ability. We are masters of self-deceit. We lie to ourselves all the time. Okay, but energy doesn't lie. If you ask yourself when you're doing your morning routine and protocol and you're doing your morning query, what am I feeling right now? Is there anything that my core is trying to tell me? And you stay quietly, things will come up. Okay, for example, the sense I am not safe, the sense of there's some ancestral stuff that are coming in that are related to the way my parents used to do XYZ that is still that is ancestrally, epigenetically coming through me that I need to stop and I need to heal in order for me to transform and change and accept this truth, this authenticity, and this transparency. Right? So if I'm not doing this and I'm not actively doing this, when karma comes in, it will yank it and force it to happen. And in the process, it may take you out of the chess game altogether, at least in the 3D plane. You're going to go somewhere else. There's no death. People are transitioning all the time. And as you transition, you move to a different state of awareness. You move to a different dimension. But you will be taken out because you're not using your time here efficiently. And the reason for this is that there's a cosmic landmark event that's about to happen called the Galactic Equator Crossing. And when that happens, there's certain expectation of evolutionary growth that we need to have gone through before we face this. Because if we didn't make all the transmutation and change that are necessary, when we get to it, we will not survive that event. Not in a evolutionary way. It will actually take us back to a pocket or parallel world and hold us there for a moment or two so that we can continue to evolve and grow and give them more time to grow. It's not that anyone is going to be destroyed or killed. It's just that since there is no time and space for those of us who are not prepared to do the real work, we're going to be given opportunities to go elsewhere, to work out the details that we are not working out right now. And part of it is because the loud events that are taking place around the world right now on the global stage, whether it's the Hurricane Helene that just passed through the south of the United States and the middle of and the Midwest, is not. There's another invest that's actually forming behind it that may follow the same path. Anyway, there are things that are taking place that are going to make many of us feel continually unsafe. Like, where do I go? What do I do? Where you go, I think you can remain where you are, but if you're living in truth, authenticity, and transparency, if you're making all the real change that are necessary, and if you're praying on a constant basis, asking God for mercy, this is the key. If you're praying all the time, asking God for mercy for yourself and for everyone else around you, if you keep asking for mercy, what's going to happen is that you're going to know what you're supposed to do. And if anything happened in your area, you're still safe. I remember in the channeling, I didn't channel this, but somebody else had channeled it years ago. There are no such thing as safe places. There are only safe people. And I believe that that's resonates deeply with me as being truth. And so as we are witnessing what's going on around the world, and we're seeing all of the rapid changes, it is disconcerting. And it's not just, as you know, the multiple wars that are potential for another world war to happen. There are all these things that are in the periphery. And to be honest with you, my poor consciousness cannot handle this alone. And it's happening on a scale that's beyond my capability as a simple human being to handle. This is why we need to pray, particularly when it's planetary karma and my own karma, my own epigenetic stuff, ancestral stuff that are coming through, and everything is moving so quickly. I can work on my own stuff, but the planetary stuff, I can only pray and ask God for mercy. My epigenetic stuff, I can take responsibility for what I need to change. Okay, I've heard this my entire life, blah, 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 and my ancestors believe in this, but this is erroneous, it's not true. I can make sure that ancestral curse or false belief ends with me by me changing. Therefore, future generation after me will not have to deal with this. This is the way you change the epigenetic stuff. And you end it with you. You make an effort to change and to transmute. Now, this is a great segue, a good way for us to move into a topic we had started to talk about last week, which is the idea that DNA positive mutation only occur when there is a mass extinction event. Darwin observed this when he was in the Galapagos, studying the Galapagos Island as having species and unusual species that he had not observed elsewhere. And in his observation, he realized that there were birds, as some of the islands were separated, and the topography, the fauna in the islands were different from each other. And he noticed in the area that was very dry with docks, with seeds that were very harsh, there was a type of bird that had a very fat and hard beak that could break the seed and get to the inside and eat it. Whereas in the other island, there were a lot of flowers and all that, there was a bird that had a long beak that was able to get to the inside of the flowers to get nutrient and whatever they needed. And he thought there were different species, but when he did further study, he realized that they were all finch, and they all came from the same original species. But over the years when the bird migrated to the different location, because of the food source limitation, regular finch could not go inside the flowers to get to the nutrient that they needed to survive. And the hard seed in the other island was not permitted, and the regular finch could not get to it. So there was a food crisis, and almost all of the finch died, except for a few a few of the mothers that were still laying eggs toward the end. They began, because of the colossal collective crisis, it created a genetic positive mutation in the species that caused the dry and arid seeds, hard seed area, finch to mutate to have the fat beak that's needed to crush the seed and get to the nutrient. And on the other hand, the place where there were the flowers, it caused a different mutation. So what I'm saying, or what I'm trying to infer to, and the narrative I'm leading us into, I believe either by doing by correcting our own epigenetic stuff and our own karmic stuff. And karma is never fun. And let me just say this now. In our lives right now, the people that are irritating us the most, we have karma with them. Whether it's a former partner, a family member, whether it is a colleague, whether it is an institution, whatever inflames you and cause you to lose it completely, you have karma with them. You've tangled with them before in multiple lifetimes, and you have to find a way to reconcile and find peace. Find a way to either walk away with honor and with peace, with neutrality, or find a way to coexist and cohabit without any rage, anger, rancor, or vengeance. And if you can do this, you will begin to liberate yourself of the karma. Sometimes the karma can manifest as disease. And as it stands out, you need to go deep. You have to have some deep introspection to find out what kind of inner conversation you're having with yourself that's causing, because a disease gets created at an energetic level first and then precipitated into a physical body. What kind of inner conversation are you having with yourself subconsciously that's causing, and I mean, that those inner conversations often contain false belief or narrative that are not ascended, that are based on incorrect emotional processing, where you're not emotionally intelligent enough to understand, and you're taking what someone has said about you or how someone perceives you as being the truth and causing yourself to become sick. Or a situation with somebody else doing something to you, and as you feel abused by it, it causes a precipitate into a physical condition in your body. Whatever the case may be, you have to unravel your own spiritual conundrum if you've all dealing with some physical ailment in your body to figure out what's the root cause. Where is this coming from? And what part of it do you need to correct in order for you to move forward? I have a friend of mine that I've been helping who just was in remission. He had a bone marrow transplant. He's in remission from cancer, an incurable form of cancer. And he wrote a book and that he's about to publish. And the subtitle of the book is How Cancer Saved My Life. And what he's realizing is that when he was the corporate head and he had all this money and he was master marketer, he was doing all of this stuff, multiple times when his emotional presence was needed to stand up for friends and family members that were in crisis, he was incapable of doing it. It's not that he didn't feel it. In fact, I've known him since I was in graduate school. We've known each other for a long time, since my 20s. He would cry profusely and then tell me, I cannot go and help so-and-so. We had a friend that was sick in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000. And I was taking care of this one. I can't do it. I can't do it, Pierre. You're a better person than me. I can't do it. Right now, having said all of this, because of the change and everything else that happened with what he went through, and it was very dramatic for him, almost killed him. And because of this, he changed and transformed. Now he's the caregiver for his elderly 89-year-old mother and his brother, who's also dying of a brain dysfunction, gray matter disease and dysfunction. So what I'm saying is that his capacity to give, his capacity to be empathetic, his capacity to be a caregiver, his capacity, it's funny because he didn't realize it. He was not even going to write that chapter. I'm the one and looking at it. I said, but you're not seeing what's in front of you. How long have you been doing this? For over a year now? You're taking care of both of them. You're cleaning. You're running them to the doctor. You're cooking. You're doing everything for them. You're being an advocate with all of the doctors and making sure you're picking up prescription. you're doing all of this. You were the person that I knew from years ago, 5 years or 6 years ago, before you were diagnosed. You were incapable of doing this. So sometimes the obstacle become a catalyst to create a dramatic change in you. And something highly positive, because now he found his soul. He's a better human being. He's a caring, and he always was caring and loving. It's just that he couldn't express it because he was living in a pretend shell where his ego and social climbing was extremely important to him. Now his heart and his mind are one. And I'm very proud of him, if you didn't notice. And so I'm saying that positive mutation, as in this is a perfect example of a major crisis, of a extension event. Okay? And that extension event changed this man into something else. And whatever he does after that, it's going to be glorious. It's going to be glorious. Because he's now completely, he's existing now in truth, authenticity, and transparency. He's not emotionally disconnecting himself so that he can live for appearances, live for status, for all the trapping of the world. He's not connected to his heart. And I wanted to share that with you because I want you to understand that I am a firm believer that if you're not doing the work to face this yourself, did he need the crisis? Probably not. None of us, whatever crisis we're facing, none of us, but we cannot help us because a lot of time we have all of these blind spots. We don't see it. Until now, since the galactic equator event is going to occur, we are getting closer and closer. The forces, and again, you have to understand something. Cosmic forces are not personal. They are not doing anything to punish you. They are doing what nature does, which is to balance and to equilibrate everything. In a way, it's a lot scarier and colder because they are doing what any force will do. Like if you push against something, the force that you're pushing against will equally have the same thing against a wall that will resist you. There are certain laws in the universe that are operating, and in this instance, as you're approaching this major evolutionary event that's about to take place, we need to be clean. And if you're not clean, and if you're not allowing yourself to be aligned, you will not be able to make it. So this is what I'm noticing in the case of my friends, is that I'm noticing that in the DNA, in the mass extinction event that he just went through with the cancer, he's able to now arrive at the place where he's such a better person to have found him saying, I need to cook to my family. I call you back and blah, blah. And the next thing you know, I'm at the doctor's with my brother. I was in the emergency room with my mom. I went to the doctor. This is something he was incapable of doing before. He loved them, but he couldn't do it because he was too busy chasing whatever the egoist was telling him to chase, which is the money, the corporate money. So the mass extinction event, or in this case, almost losing his life to cancer, was able to help him face. And the positive mutation that occurred for him is that he changed from not only did he change genetically, because now he has a new bone marrow in him that was given by his sister. So he's literally a different person, but more to the point, energetically, Emotionally, he has such maturity. He's expended so much. He has such empathy and such care and such social intelligence. I am hats out to him. And I want you to, and taking this from a micro into a macro, these events that are happening around the world that appear to be catastrophic in many ways, Asheville being one of them, and all the things that are happening right now, are nothing more than the acceleration of planetary karma as we are facing this galactic equator crossing that's about to that we're moving toward, and the fact that many of us are not moving fast enough or not transmuting fast enough. The unfortunate thing with human beings, and I'm going to say this, and I want you to pay careful attention. The unfortunate thing for us, when everything is going well, we don't grow. We only grow, really grow, when we are in serious crisis. Because if everything is going well, the status quo, everything is wonderful, we make no effort to change and transform ourselves. Unless you're like me or some of you on the platform with me at this moment, many of us are we understand ascension and enlightenment as being a goal, and we are constantly. Many of you have been with me since 2008 or even earlier, and we have collectively been working on this. But we are the rarity. Most people on the planet, when things are going well, they're party, they're hanging out with friends, and all of it is great. We need levity, we need joy, we need companionship, we need friendship, we need all of that. But when things are going extremely well, we don't make real changes and real transformation. And as I said with Darwin and his idea of his concept of positive mutation and evolution, that positive mutation can only occur when there is actual crisis. And what's going on with the world right now in all context that you're looking at, whether it is the climate change stuff, and whether it is the wars, social, political, economics, and even for us, interpersonal between us and our friend, all kinds of crises are being created because we are not safe. We don't feel safe. And because we don't feel safe, we get agitated, and we are trying to figure out a way to allow ourselves to feel safe and feel that we are okay. So for the safety part, prayers. Prayers for ourselves, prayers for family, prayers for, and you don't need to take the burden of someone else and absorb their stuff. You don't need to interfere with what they're doing. But you can send prayers intention, prayers are free. And for the world, pray for peace, pray for acceptance, pray for and pray for hope and for mercy. Pray for mercy. All right, I've said a lot. Any questions, any comments?
I thank you for that. And two comments or maybe questions. It sounds like if some challenge has befallen you, it's because there is something that you need to change, some growth that you need to go through. So not to see it as woe is me, but as a wake-up call to something that you need to address, except maybe when you happen to be living in a country that's at war, that's not addressing your specific situation, like an illness or whatever, but a group, a consciousness of that community maybe. And then I was also thinking that how valuable these classes are that you're giving, because you're helping us to see ourselves. And very often that is, as you said, the hardest thing to see. But others can hold up a mirror or show you where to look, and that is valuable.
Thank you, Janice. Thank you for that. If you are living in a country, for example, where there are certain things and you find yourself in war, like whether you're in Israel or in Beirut, in Lebanon, or in the Gaza Strip, or in what's the other war, Ukraine, or you're Russia, you're connected to the karma of the nation that you're in. You were incarnated in that. You could have been born anywhere else. There's a reason why you're there. So you need to find what that connection is, and you need to work out a way to, if you're going to find your true self, if the country is not in truth, authenticity, and transparency, you need to disconnect to the group body that links you to that nation, and allow yourself to exist by yourself in truth, authenticity, and transparency. That's not easy to do. That's not easy to do.
And the truth, transparency, and authenticity is with yourself.
Yes.
And you may not have to then share everything about your life with everybody to be transparent. If it's only directed inwardly, is that what you mean?
Yes. What I'm saying is that you may belong to a nation, and it could be that the nation is at war for the wrong reason.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody in the nation is saying, has a narrative that they're saying. We're seeing it right now in America. America is divided.
Mm-hmm.
There's a huge rift, and one half sees it one way, the other half sees it in a different way. I won't get into the politics of it, but if you're caught in that kind of polarization that's setting up a battle between two ends, you need to elevate beyond that and realize this is not my fight. There's no reason why I have to fight anyone. And you need to emancipate yourself above that and say to yourself, that fight and that battle, it's petty and it means nothing in the scheme. We all should be at peace and live and be kind and loving and caring to each other. And accepting of someone else having a different point of view. It's okay if someone else has a different point of view, and if they're different than me, and I can accept that, it shows my capacity for love is bigger than my fear of differences.
Well said.
Because the reason for the battle is the fear of difference. I don't need to have what you have. I don't need to believe what you have the sovereign right to believe in what you believe, as I have the same right as well. So as such, I can allow you to exist in whatever belief system you want. And we can still be friends. I have people that I'm friend with that are on the other side of my political acceptance and views. I don't want to talk politics with them, but I still love them. We hang out, we talk, we have discussion, all that. When the conversation becomes politics, I get up, I walk away. I said, I don't want to talk about this, and I'm done. But I care for them. If there was a crisis, they need to go to the hospital, I will run to them, to their home, and I will help them. The fact that you have a different view and you're seeing things differently does not mean that I am going to toss you out. It's not black and white. And that's the capacity to emancipate into true wisdom and true compassion. Dr. Stone used to say we have to have preferences and not attachments. And I'm trying to live that. I'm not there yet, but I'm working on it. And the idea is that you prefer that the world would be a certain way, but you don't have attachment to outcome, the timing in which that the world will be in that kind of compassionate, loving, and accepting lotus formation is not up to you and me. That will depend on the collective positioning of all of us who are the key player in grounding light that will descend at the galactic equator crossing from God into the earth. And for that to happen, we have to, again, expand ourselves into that kind of, again, it's not just us that are at war, that have that kind of rift. It exists everywhere. It's happening in France, it's happening in Germany, it's happening even in Sweden, which is was the happiest country in the world. Finland and Norway, they're having the same problem because they accepted a whole bunch of migrants and they're having all kinds of crises right now. Netherlands, all places are facing the same thing because what's happening, it's the whole planet. The karma of the planet is accelerating, moving toward that crossing. And as such, what was underneath in the subconscious mind, what was deeply buried, will come to the surface to be flushed out. And if it's stuck and you're not working in chiseling at it to facilitate the collective energy that's trying to purge it and cleanse it, you're not facilitating an acceleration in that transformation, you're not supporting it. If you're resisting it, it's going to happen by karma. And the karma is going to be catastrophic. So I have friends, and I personally, and many people I've known, have had losses. I've had multiple losses very recently. My family, my mom, and many of my friends, my cousins, I've had many losses recently. And I had to process the loss. So if you happen to have had a fortune or money or a home, and all of a sudden, poof, it's gone. These things happen, and they are part of the collective karma. And I have to say this to you. How attached are you to the things of this world? I'm going to use my friend I was using before, my friend who had recovered from this from the cancer. He was making a lot of money corporately, a lot. But in the process of him having cancer, not being unable to work and everything else for so long, it was a 3.5-year battle with the cancer before he went into in remission. He almost died multiple times and all of that. His beautiful home went into foreclosure and he lost it. He lost his car. He lost a whole bunch of stuff. But he gained more. He gained way more because he's a better human being. He gained back his soul. So a lot of time, so the positive mutation happened for him because it connected him to his own soul. So whatever crisis you're going through, whether it's a health crisis, whether it is, it will emancipate you if you allow yourself to learn from it. And the funny thing, as I said with my friend, he didn't see it. He just moved into doing this thing because no one else was there to take care of his mom and his brother. And he said, I'm moving their home. I'm moving my mother's home, and I'm going to take care. Because the younger brother was taking care of the mom. And then the younger brother got sick and got diagnosed with this disease. And the doctors are prognosis is like 3 years. And he's like, I got to move in. I'm going to move in. I'm going to take care of them. And he moved in and he started taking care of them. He didn't see what I saw, which is like, this is unheard of from the person that I knew, let's say 7, 8 years ago. He would be incapable of doing this. And when I pointed out to him, he went, oh my God, he was so shocked. So when the positive mutation happened, You will not notice it. A bystander will see it, but you will not notice it. So I want you to understand that all of us have crises in our life, every one of us. The positive mutation is taking place in you as we speak. Now, some of us are supporting the change and the transformation because we don't want stuck energy. We're busy having conversation with our core, doing what we needed to do to accelerate or to support the process. Others are not doing that, and a crisis will be created. Whatever the case may be, if after the crisis is created, you become conscious and you make a great effort to support the change and the shift in consciousness that's needed. As that occurs, the positive mutation will occur as well. Why are we positively mutating? Because we need to evolve from being Homo sapien to becoming Homo luminous. What do I mean by Homo luminous? We're going to evolve in becoming light beings. Biological entities that will move to bioregenesis because what you have to understand is that our physical body is not just about the physical biology, because the food that we consume, whether the vegetables and the plants that we're eating, all that vegetable, that plant is here because of photosynthesis. And photosynthesis is basically the captured light of the sun. Inside of all of us, there is what is called biophoton, which is light that is trapped in our own biology. And there comes a point, if you surrender control to your higher power, if you let go and let yourself elevate higher and higher into higher consciousness, if you support and continue to allow your consciousness throughout all of the chaos that's existing in the world, you stand fast and firm in prayer and connection to the divine, and you let that connection to the divine be sealed as a new covenant and be so tight that you will not let go. What's going to happen as the crises get created? You will be at rest. Your soul will be at peace. It's not that the crises are not going to jar you. They will. But you will always go back to the basics. I don't understand. Job, during his crisis in the book of Job, when everything was being taken away from him by Satan, when he lost his house, he lost his 3 kids, he lost his wife, he lost everything. He became destitute, homeless, a beggar. All throughout, he was like this with God. I will not forsake you, because you have a greater role and purpose that I'm not seeing right now. Even through the worst crisis, I don't see from where I'm standing why I'm going through this, but you have a higher purpose, and I trust you. I believe in you, and I trust you. Whatever it is that I'm going through, I know I am supported by you. I trust you. And if you can do this from the core of your being, with all of your heart, you're going to evolve, because Job gained everything back and more. You're going to evolve and go into a higher version of yourself. The positive mutation will take place. Any questions, any comments? Now, we have to be very careful, because sometimes the karma that we're facing is connected to our relationship to friends and family members. A lot of time the karma is not our karma. Because if you look at your own, if you are alone living in your own bubble, the crisis that's being created is because you care for someone else, or you're trying to empath their problems, and you're therefore absorbing their own karma. You become you're intercepting, or you're inserting yourself in something that doesn't belong to you. Now, I know we're all socially intelligent and we should all support and love each other. But there is a difference between support and you becoming and interfering. And we have to learn the difference between the two. You can give someone advice, you can help them along the way, you can do all that. But when you're running after them to do, and as you're giving the advice, or you're trying to tell them to do this XYZ, and you're getting sick and upset, you're taking their karma. Because if you were really non-attached to the outcome, when you give someone advice, if you're non-attached to what you're saying, when you give them the advice, whether they do it or not will change nothing emotionally in you. But if you become charged because they don't do it, you've taken their karma. Or you're trying to you have control problems. You're trying to control everything. You need to shake that off and realize that this is not my karma. Because many of us were in crisis because we are taking because we're attached to everything. Now it's hard to be non-attached altogether, because if any of us become non-attached to everything, we're becoming an enlightened being. We're in a Buddha state. And the idea is to, when we face a situation where we are dealing with friends and family members and we're trying to give them advice about this, that, or the other, what happened is that as we're doing this, we need to figure out a way to give someone constructive criticism or to give them a suggestion. I have this rule of 3. If I tell you something 3 times and you don't do it, I'm never going to tell you anything anymore. Because after that, I become a nag. I'm not going to tell you anymore. I was talking to a friend of mine very recently, was this problem, this relationship stuff, and very toxic relationship. And he was like going on. And I said to him, if you bring this up to me again, I said, I've told you this already, that this relationship is toxic. I've told you that so many times. I said, for whatever reason, you cannot let go, okay? And move on with your life. I said, if you bring this up again, I will get up and walk away, because I don't want to hear it anymore. So we need to examine in the process of, there is a difference between empathy and codependency. It's one thing to be empathetic, which is to feel the pain and be emotionally intelligent to sense the pain and the discomfort of others. It's another thing to be codependent, where you begin to share now their psyche and their burden become yours. Now we can do this with family members or friends or a whole nation. None of us are integrally complete and sovereign by ourselves. We need to become appendages of each other and be connected in a web where we are enmeshed. So if you have friends and family members who are doing things that seem to irritate you and inflame you, pay careful attention to them, because it's not about them. It's not about, it's about you, and about you being potentially codependent. And therefore, you need to emancipate into a state of non-attachment and let them be. You can give them advice and tell them X, Y, Z. If it were me, this is what I would do, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. And I'm going to let it go. And here is the greatest thing. The same way God gave you the wisdom to have the insight to know what to do and what to tell them, God is equally capable in its own timing to reach their soul and tell. You know how many times with some of my friends right now, we have told them the same thing over and over again. And then a year and a half later, they come back and tell me exactly what I told them, except this time it's coming from within them. One of my friends, again, talking about the karma, and I told her that a couple of times before. She has a bad knee, and she was wearing a knee brace and all that. And she keeps talking all the time. I don't know what I did. This happened in her 20s. I don't know what I did, blah, 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 where I have this problem. I have to go every week for acupuncture to make sure that I'm for my knee and all of that. I don't know whatever I did. And I told her, this is not your karma. You took somebody else's karma, because I could see it intuitively. I said, it's not your karma. It wasn't your karma. You took it intuitively. And she was not getting it. And maybe a year and a half to 2 years later, almost 2 years later, I said it again. And something clicked in her, because it was the right timing. Something clicked in her, and she started crying and bawling out crying. She said, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. My mom said this to me. My mom said this to me when the accident happened. What had happened is that she had a friend who apparently was very jealous of her. She didn't realize it, was very envious and jealous of her. And she's the kind of person that's inserting herself constantly into trying to help people. And she's constantly running after everyone, trying to help this, help that one. If you see her on the street, she's asking all the tourists when they're looking at their phone, where are you going? What are you trying to find? The Wi-Fi is not good here. She's constantly inserting herself, right? This is the kind of person that she is. It's a good thing. It's also a bad thing. In this instance, it was a bad thing. And she didn't see it because she was busy trying to help this girl. And she was crossing the street, and this car was out of control and was about to hit this girl. And she ran and pushed the girl out of the way, and they both got hit, but her severely, the other girl recovered. She took the girl's karma. And she understood it that day. She said, my mother said the same thing when I was in the hospital. I can't believe you're saying this. She was shaking and she was crying. I said to her, I've been trying to tell you for a year and a half, but you couldn't hear it. I said it before, but this time you heard me. So a lot of time, I was talking to Janice a little bit earlier before we started recording. In quantum physics, there's a concept called the world line. And I will try to explain this. And it's a fifth dimensional quality. The X, Y, and Z axis, the spatial coordinate, can determine, let's say, the corner of 72nd Street and Broadway. Okay? In a map, on a global map, if you have these three coordinates, you can determine where that corner is, southeast corner of 72nd and Broadway. However, if you stand in that corner to get to a specific event, let's say, for example, you meeting a friend or the love of your life per accident at that very corner, that experience, giving all time that exists, because Broadway and 72nd Street in that spatial coordinate goes back when the earth was still just lava and magma in a ball of fire. To get to an actual event, in the case of my friend I was describing, where she got it, that time, the exact time in which somebody processed something and get it and it clicks, that's called the world line. In her instance, for her to understand this, there was let's say, for example, you're trying to seek healing. You're trying to seek a new job or a fortune. That money or that fortune will come, but the timing in which when it comes, where it clicks and everything precipitate, that's the time, that's what's called the world line. Because if for example, the fortune is going to be made in Sacramento or in San Diego or in Chicago or in Sydney, Australia, there's special coordinate for those locations. But when it happened, because if you arrive too early or too late, it's not, you're not going to experience it. That exact time when everything clicks, it's called the world line. And that's a fifth dimensional quality, because people who are able or fifth dimensionally ascended can control the timeline to land exactly at the right time to experience something that will transform and change. Any questions in the comments? I know I'm saying a lot, okay? But because what we're facing is nuanced. And because of the nuance, we need to talk about these things. Any questions, any comments?
Pierre, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm going to say that because we've been working on this together for years, that I can identify with a lot of what you're saying. And also just that like some kind of capacity about the other people not dealing with their issue. The whole summer, it's one person after the other who's ill. And then, you told me, and I'm sharing this for others, that I put myself out so much to help Nan, which I don't mind, but that it was weakened. Now I know, like, I don't have to be around those people. In fact, I can't even hardly listen to them on the phone anymore. There's like one person, it's like I felt the box. Another person, I briefly felt the illness. Another person, so I just say I can't talk to you on the phone. I've already, if you didn't go to the doctor for 15 years, so be it. Then instead of seeming like I feel cruel, I just can't do it. Then what's happened by centering my energy more in these techniques that you've shared with us, with the breathing, the morphogenic listening, and I think the tension field, amazing things have been manifesting around me here in the desert. Like, as I told you, when I left the hospital, I just decided on the way home to go to the Marriott. And then all the people are there from the Bhakti Fest. So it was a wonderful energy, very nourishing. So it's much more rewarding and helping me than, I don't know why we get indoctrinated to take care of people who aren't listening to us in the first place, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe there's a few who are, but I don't know. So today, on a happy note, someone had to go get something at the grocery down in the next town, and I saw a sign, yard sale. Well, it was in an unusual area because we're so remote. So I said, well, I think I'll follow that sign. Well, I was led to a beautiful part of the desert on a high mesa that I've never seen. And they're like ranches of the native people. I don't know why, it was just a fantastic moment to be out there. And the area of the land was very pure. And they're going to help send me a gardener who can come help the area I'm wilding. So anyway, it's actually more fun than running all around rescuing all these people who don't want to be rescued really in the first place, right? Or resent you or me or are arguing with us as if we're someone else. So thank you for teaching that. Um, I feel like I'm finally starting to get it.
Hmm.
And it was like you said, at a certain moment in time, like because it is so remote here, funny, like I'll go somewhere and there's the exact person, Sona, who I met there a year ago at the exact place at the exact moment today, and she's going to help Java. She said, "Oh, look, we're here at the exact moment in the exact place again." So I get what you're saying, and it feels almost like beat me up, Scotty, to me, like you just kind of like okay, instead of like being wherever we are on some strange world with a crisis, we're just in the beam and going up. So it's very simple. So thank you. I don't know if that is connected to what you're trying to say.
No, it is highly connected, Kit. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that these changes are being implemented. And again, we are doing this not because we are nosy body, but because we are empathetic. But empathy can lead very quickly to enmeshment. Because if the person does not desire to change, you can only give advice. You have to respect the other person's sovereignty to say no. And if they say no, they don't want to do it, walk away. And if sometimes they don't say no directly, they demonstrate the no by not doing what they're telling you, what you told them to do. And since they're doing that, you don't need to have to be involved anymore. Walk away. You gave the advice already. I already told you what you should be doing. I'm not doing this again. Again, for me, it's rule of three. So first time, second time, third time, after that, I'm not telling you again. I'm
Yeah, and
not.
what was amazing around the people of the light at the Bhakti Fest, eating breakfast with me, really was feeling quite terrible from the spider bite, but it was so encouraging. And it was like the room was full of light.
Mhm. Wonderful.
And it was very nourishing and happy and effortless.
Mhm.
I know you told me a while back, you told all of us that the shift in the dimensions already happening.
Yep.
The elevator, yeah, but it's amazing. Just driving home, that well, not well enough to be home. And even though it's so hot out here, most of us locals didn't go to the Bhakti Fest because it's so hot. But they were out under the tents, and I could almost see the light in the area they were in.
Mm.
It was very comforting, I'll tell you that.
Mm. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah, maybe like light birds of a feather flock together.
I'm glad for you. Again, the world line. You happen
Yeah,
to go to the area at the exact time when this was going on, and it was
yeah,
meant for you to experience this. This is what I
yeah.
mean by the world line. It's
The,
that
the exact
if
time.
if you were there at the wrong time, a day before or an hour before, you would not ever have experienced this. So that's what I mean about this idea, this concept. And the same is true for the people who can click and finally learn the lesson. But
Yeah,
that world line is determined by their own inner God and inner intelligence. They will not get to it by you wishing that they were there. This is why we have to walk away.
yeah, and also some of the people especially because I come from a different culture and have gone onward, and then some of the other issues. It's just like I just can't listen to it anymore. I just wish you well, hang up.
Yeah.
Nothing rude, none of that guilt or shame, that used to be implanted by the churches.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. We need to again understand that growth and change and transformation is an internal process. It's not external. I cannot grow for you, you cannot grow for me. You can give me advice, whether I choose to accept or receive the advice, it's up to me. And it's up to where my consciousness is and where the God within me is in growth and evolutionary process. The real healer is your own inner intelligence, not any external thing that's happening. So
Right.
that's what we have to accept and understand and give people the space. If they're not getting it, they will get it. God will, if not now, they will go to the parallel world when the galactic equator crossing happens. It will take them a few more million years. They will learn it eventually. The timing is not mine to control.
I got it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that idea and that concept, again, allows for us to open ourselves up and realize that we are not in charge and to be more accepting of the power of God to reach everyone on the planet in its own timing to change them and transform them. Like we're talking about the fact America is split in half. Well, it so happened that God will reach everybody that needs to be reached so that we can go into a state of hope, acceptance, and tolerance of each other in God's timing, not mine. Me standing in the street corner yelling, "Can't you see?" Blah blah. It's not going to make any difference. No one is going to change. No one is going to change because of this. The way you really change people is by being the change that you're trying to teach them. That's what real change happens. People learn by watching. They don't learn by you telling them and proselytizing to them or trying to preach to them. They learn by watching your example. So if we are accepting this as a path and we're moving forward, we should be, again, as you're becoming more tolerant of yourself and more tolerant of others, and you're realizing people are doing what they need to do in their own timing, they will get it. And whatever crisis, and more importantly, save your energy for the crisis you're facing internally within yourself. You have your own stuck energies. Save your energy to unstuck yourself. Save your energies. Any other questions or comments before we go to a 5-minute break?
I was just thinking, yes, Pierre, that part of that is maybe the martyr complex, right? That you feel that you need to save somebody else at your expense, like the story you were relating of the person who injured herself terribly by taking on the karma of the other person.
Yeah.
What do you call that? Not a complex. What do you call that? Archetype.
Yes.
Right? A martyr.
The martyr archetype, yes.
So that may be worth looking into if you find yourself. Well, I have to say, I probably fall into that sometimes, where I sacrifice my needs for somebody else's.
Yeah, I think that's very indigenous to some of our upbringing. You know, even the saying, you know, you took a bullet for me, you know, like that's honored, right? Instead of the idea that the person is on their own path in their own way.
Yes. An ascended master will not interfere necessarily with your karma. They will not help unless you ask them. And when you ask them, they know how to respond in a way that's non-attached. So if they pray for you for the removal of your karma, it will give you a glimpse at what life temporarily could be without you being stuck in that pattern. Now, whether you choose to walk into it and remain in it, it's up to you. And
So
that
the praying for the person is not the same thing as empathetically trying to save them.
totally. You can pray for them. And as long as for you're done, you release it to God. God, it's in your hand. If it's in your if it is in the highest good of the person to remove this problem, make it so. You leave it in the hand of God to make the change. You don't try to make the change yourself.
Right. I got it now.
That there's a huge difference between the two. And when you're in that state, you don't impact, you're not taking other people's karma. So many times I'm seeing, particularly now, I'm seeing people who are struggling. I'm like, this is not your karma. It has nothing to do with you. It's your friend. You're getting it from somewhere else. I was talking to a mother very recently, a student of mine, and she's dealing with something with her son and all that, and not only son, but her whole family. There's all this health problem that she's having, horrible health symptoms that she's been dealing with for the past 5 or 6 years. None of it is hers. She's taking a bullet, and she grew up deeply Christian and deeply Catholic. She's taking the burden and the karma of her entire epigenetic, of her grandmother, of her mother, all of them are deceased. She figured, I will, similar to Christ, I will sacrifice myself for them.
Yeah,
And even
it's so
with
indoctrinated. It's so
Yeah.
ingrained.
Yeah, and she's doing it even with her son. I'm like, this is not your karma. Right now, you should be on easy street. You're doing all this other spiritual work, this profound spiritual work. The problem is the epigenetic stuff that you're absorbing. You're taking all this karma, and none of it is yours. And I said, you have to let it go. I am weak. I can't let it go because I feel responsible. Responsible for what? I had to say to her. Why?
Yeah,
It's
I
not your
know.
responsibility. Why are you taking this?
I think the other part of that equation could be maybe in addition to or instead of the martyr archetype, it is a measure of lack of self-worth, where somebody else is more important than you feel you are.
Yes. And your worth and your value is connected to the degree, and this is what the church told us, to the degree that you're saving and rescuing others, it's the degree that you're by the way, my friend who had the accident is a deeply church going. She's again Catholic. She's in church every Sunday.
Well, one thing during this weird summer that I became aware of in my own self with the morphogenic listening was way back the level of trauma from my background, where I must have disassociated from my own need and gotten that rush. Like once ages ago, you talked about the rush people got from going shopping, like the adrenaline rush. And it's like I sort of noticed that why do I feel more secure about telling these people what to do or helping these people who aren't even listening than listening to my own self? And I finally got to the feeling with the anxiety in my own anxiety imprint of kind of when it happened or the pattern of it happening. So now I was breathing through it with the 12 breaths and centering and then feeling it. And then I didn't get to the torsion field because just that alone, calming that energy, was quite a lot. And I know Janice, I was at the hospital because I got a spider bite, and they think it's going to help my immune system actually. But it was funny because the night nurse I was only there two nights, but one night the woman asked me, "What is it with you? Why don't you look your age? What's going on in this room? Why is there all this light in this room?" And I said, well, I'm practicing my exercises with Pierre. I don't know if she called you Pierre, but I know she was really listening. She sat and talked to me for an hour about it all.
Mm.
And then the other night, which was rather humorous, the nurse was called Mr. Gumbo. And I just got the kick out of that because being from New Orleans, and I think it actually might have even been Friday, plus, but it was such a blur. But there was humor, and these people from all around the world, the nurses. So, they kept asking me, "You're very sick, but how come you don't look at her? How come you don't look your age?" I said, "I have no idea. I'm just trying to move forward, keep the energy going."
Mhm.
And I think people are looking.
So
Maybe
because of
it's
all the work that you've done so far, you're unstocking yourself and in other words, the wave of transformation and change that's coming from the universe. And then again, as natural forces that are accelerating change, the quickening, because you're doing all of this work, you're supporting it. It's
right.
creating positive mutation in you. That's why
Yeah,
people,
I was listening to, Patreon, and then listening to something else, and the nurses, especially the nurses from around the world, because it's a very tiny place, we are very they kept walking in at 2 in the morning and saying, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm listening, I'm meditating, I don't feel well, I'm agitated, I'm trying to calm myself." And they just quieted down and listened. Well, I meditate. The other one, she felt she had a curse in her bloodline. I said, "Well, we do all kinds of work, but you really do your own work." She took Pierre's number and wrote it was like 2 in the morning, and I felt quite terrible. And just to know how to disassociate to the discomfort, pain somewhat. But she wrote it, I don't know if she called Pierre, but I know she was looking it up.
Mhm.
And then they were funny with me because they are funny. They help. We have a lot of weird injuries out in the middle of the desert. And they said, "Well, don't worry, Kit, you're getting more superpowers." At least it was encouraging, right?
wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. And I think we were waking up like that all over. I feel very honored to be experiencing it. Thank you,
Wonderful.
Pierre.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Let's take a 5 minute break and then we'll do the closing. 5 minutes. Take a very deep and slow breath. And as you inhale and exhale deeply and slowly, allow the universal life force that permeates everything to enter into your lungs. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your soul and your awareness drop in the middle of your chest. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Let your mind and your heart sync with each other. And notice what you notice. Listen. Listen to your core and to your heart. As if the more than 50 trillion cells in your body had ears. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. What kinds of information expansion healing and liberation. Is this creating for you? I release all attachments, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness. And endless luminosity. I release all attachments, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness and endless luminosity. I release all attachments, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness and endless luminosity. Lord, I am broken and imperfect. I am lost and cannot make sense of what's happening around me. Guide me with your divine wisdom and insight on how to become more neutral. May I be less charged and triggered by the transformational changes and events that are taking place in my life and around the world. I know that my understanding is limited, small, and myopic. Expand my heart and compassion and understanding, that I may embrace the hidden benefits that exist in the changes. Transformation and transmutation that you are creating. All the changes even the one that may initially scare me, come from you. You're my rock and benefactor. I renew my faith in you. Be merciful to me, my family, friends, and the world. Let the landing of these changes touch down with ease, compassion, benevolence, and unexpected blessings for me and the world. I surrender my will to yours and ask for your protection, love, and acceptance. May thy will be done. Amen. Take a very deep and slow breath. And whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes.
Thank you, Pierre.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you all for listening to me tonight. I want to thank you for your listening to us on Patreon. If you're following us on YouTube, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to talking to you next weekend. Deep love, everyone. Blessings to all of you. Thank you.
Good night. Good night. Love you.
Good night.